Borderless Talks. It's brought to you by Serviap Global.
This is episode 2, Navigating Global IT Challenges in a Remote World. We're delighted to have Carlos Escutia join us today. Carlos is the co-founder and CEO of GroWrk. This leading global technology platform specializing in IT asset management for some of the world's largest and fastest growing global distributed companies. Before GroWrk, Carlos co-founded Casa One, a furniture rental tech company that raised $78 million in venture funding and served as an investment officer at FIS Venture Fund Management. Welcome to the show, Carlos. We're so happy that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Ricardo. Thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. And happy to expand on that. The idea of GroWrk really came about from our experience building a previous company, which you highlighted, Casa One. And, as we were scaling that company in San Francisco, we started hiring a lot of engineers in India and Latin America because it was more cost efficient, right? Effective to do that. And so, one of the issues that I came across consistently was precisely how do I manage the equipment for those team members that were not in an office and, we still were responsible for those devices, and I couldn't find a solution, and it was a nightmare. So I just thought that it was a good opportunity to build a better solution. This was all before the pandemic. The pandemic arrived and it accelerated all the trends that we have been seeing around remote distributed workforces from years to months, right? And so in today's world, there's been a clear inflection point in the way organizations, think about structuring their companies to do what needs to be done. And so the job market is global in nature. We enable it. We're part of an ecosystem of solutions that exist in the market today to enable any company from day one to be built globally, right? It's a trend that continues to grow. Hybrid is here to stay. Despite every single article that you listen to or read about in terms of returning to an office, it's clear that, that has already leveled out at about half, of what it used to be pre-COVID, in terms of office occupancy, right? So it's a very clear trend of what's happening at a global scale. And so what we do here at GroWrk is exactly building the infrastructure required for these organizations to support those teams globally.
Right. And I think you touched a very interesting point about the pandemic. You mentioned that you started back in 2019, which is pretty much the start of the pandemic. Did that affect in any way GroWrk's journey?
No, for us, again, I built this to scratch my own itch, right? So I knew what I was, solving for sure. The pandemic accelerated really what we were working on, right? What I was thinking about is this will probably take 5-10 years, longer to get to where we are today. But given everything that happened, so suddenly for every single company and employee, the necessity to have a solution, was very, was very fast. And so that accelerated everything on our end.
Right. Yeah. I think in most companies, pretty much a lot of, such as ourselves, in this remote setting, the pandemic really sped up our journey and kind of catapulted us into the right direction. So besides kind of like what you just mentioned, what other things occurred that kind of made you choose the global asset management industry?
No, it's an interesting question because you start with some hypotheses, right? And to be frank, our initial objective at GroWrk was to go beyond or do a lot more than just IT. It was how do you actually provide a proper work environment to your employees, right? No matter where they're working from. But keep in mind that during the pandemic, we had no clue what was going to happen. Nobody knew when, we would be able to go back to an office or, see other people. So, people were thinking about the worst case scenarios. And so for us was like, hey, let's enable organizations to supply their contractors or employees, with the proper office space in their houses, right? Or whatever they were working from. So that would be an ergonomic, desk, a chair, all the peripherals needed to ensure that, they were being taken care of. So that was part of our solution. And, obviously what we started learning or what we continue learning as we scale was that, the bigger problems really were about, IT infrastructure to support the needs, starting with the IT, asset lifecycle. Where do you procure, devices? How do you deliver those devices on time? How do you manage, any issues that may come up at any given point with those, endpoints, right? How do you recover those devices when team members leave? And how do you ensure that the entire operation is fully compliant and helps you mitigate any cybersecurity risks? So that's kind of the focus, and that's the bigger, market that we have seen as we continue to scale.
Right. That's very interesting. And I think kind of like being in the EOR industry, that also happens a lot with some of the companies that we also help. One of the things that caught my attention looking at your company is GroWrk really defines itself as a truly global and distributed organization that operates without any physical offices or a centralized office as most common companies. What were the reasons that led you to creating this type of workforce?
Yeah, and I think, it goes along those lines of when the timing of when we started. But I had experience already with remote building Casa One, where we had an office, but we also had engineers, abroad. And so for me, it was just cost efficiency. Like, hey, we're probably not going to raise as much capital as we raised last time, simply because that's not what I wanted to pursue. That path I did not want to pursue. So how do we make sure that we can do this cost effectively, right? While we find product market fit and all that, right? And so getting access to talent abroad really enabled us to be able to do that, right? Or a fraction of the cost that it would cost us if we had hired those team members in the US. That was the start of this. And, we just fully embraced it. We're a fully remote team, over 100 team members operating from 25 countries. And, it's been good. It has its challenges, but I can get into that too, if you like to. But, for the most part, the benefits, far exceed the challenges.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I do want to dive into that a little bit more. So where are some of the team members that you have on your team located?
Yeah, we have team members all over the world, Latin America, Asia, China, India, the Philippines, in Europe, all over Europe, UK, Spain, France, Italy, Eastern Europe, you name it. I mean, really, we have no limitation, and really what we focus on is let's find the best possible people for what we're trying to build here, no matter where they're from.
Right. And you also mentioned that cost is obviously one of the benefits of remote workforce. What would you say are other benefits or advantages of remote setting?
I think one of the biggest ones is that you also gain access to people that are really hungry to get, to work and to prove themselves, right? And to really make a dent in whatever they're working on. My experience in the US, especially San Francisco, Silicon Valley, is that, and in that period of time where we're building, Casa One, 2015 to 2020, a lot of entitlement, a lot of, people wanting to ask for everything, right? And so that's the sort, and hey, if you don't give it to me, then I'll just go to whatever other company is looking for me, looking to hire me. So that was the dynamic. And so, just having active team members from all over the world, it just gave us the visibility and the insight of, hey, there's people that are equally talented, right? From a technical standpoint, and they have a chip on their shoulders and they want to prove that they can, make something happen, and they are happy and excited about joining this opportunity. And so that's one of the biggest, I think, differences that we have been seeing on top of the cost, saving.
Right. So you mentioned that you have a distributed workforce obviously in different time zones in different countries. How does that work out for you, into the international customer service setting, with dealing with all of that?
Yeah. So in today's world, everything is moving so fast in terms of technology that, the way we enable our customer support and customer success teams are through technology, right? Through AI specifically. And so AI is really, being groundbreaking when it comes down to providing a better experience to your customers. And so no longer do you have to have, team members answering questions 24/7, right? And we have some of those, capabilities in place, but now we're leveraging AI to basically, provide the smart solution, customized solution to our customers. So, a customer will come to us and they will share with us, their FAQs, and then we will train a model so that every time that an end user has a question on support,
Right.
our AI bot, can actually answer those questions. And if it doesn't help, if it cannot help them, then it is escalated to a team member. But that layer is becoming better and better for layer of tackling those questions. So that is being very efficient and it's very exciting, what we're seeing, in terms of, productivity in that space.
Got it. Thank you for that. And I know, obviously, in the news, you probably have seen some of the return to office mandates. Has this impacted the way that GroWrk is performing? Or I know that most of these drastic changes came into effect due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and some of the major companies kind of that sent out these mandates would be Microsoft, Apple, and SpaceX. What is GroWrk stance on this subject regarding your team and the subject in general?
Yeah, no, look, I think that there are industries where you must have people, on site, right? If you're manufacturing, if the certain of work, yeah, you probably have to be on site, right? I mean, out of space. If we talk about Amazon, look, the reality is that this is a way for them to optimize their, headcount. There are a lot of people that will basically leave the organization because they already made, pretty important choices, right? About, purchasing a home out far away from where the office is located, sometimes even out of state. So relocating for work, it may not be the best, solution for them, for those employees, right? And so what's going to happen naturally as we continue to progress and more companies embrace remote, hybrid, flexibility is that for every company that pushes employees to go back to the office, you have two companies that are willing to recruit them, remotely, right? And so that is what's happening right now. I mean, we see it on the quality of the jobs, of the prospects that come to us for the jobs that we have posted. It's just, they wouldn't be interested in working with us if we're not providing that flexibility, right? And so I think that as a retention tool is very important. So companies naturally will continue to provide it. I think that there is a place, for the office for sure. And I think that most organizations will probably move toward a hybrid, structure. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the data, on the day-to-day, of what we do here. When it comes down to GroWrk, our solution is built to, really enable any organization with, team members that, work remotely or in office. Because even if you're in office, you don't want to probably have a closet full of, all IT equipment and you don't even know what you have. You're probably not optimized and you're probably spending more than you should, by not managing those processes, effectively. And so we actually help companies and have customers that are fully in office managing their IT, as well. So it hasn't really impacted that.
Perfect. Yeah. So what is the biggest IT challenges companies face when they're onboarding remote employees with their housing?
Yeah, for sure. The first one is obviously ensuring that those devices are delivered on time, right? If you have a new joiner starting in, a week or a couple of weeks and, that team member is joining in, remote location, Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Tanzania, sometimes, right? Or somewhere in Latin America or in India, you got to make sure that you're providing the best experience to those new joiners so that they can have a good impression of your organization. But most importantly, especially if those first joiners are engineers, if any, day passes, they're not onboarded, it's very expensive for an organization. So at downtime, not joining on time, it just adds up, right? And so that's where we come in, and that is we help organizations automate this and give them the predictability to ensure that those devices will be delivered on time, properly enrolled in their device management solution or their image, the security settings, et cetera, before delivering those devices to those team members.
Got it. And so obviously in this industry, you often see some of the IT mistakes that some of the companies make. So what are some of the common IT mistakes companies make when they're onboarding the remote employees?
Yeah, the common mistake, especially if you don't have experience, is that you're hiring team members in certain parts of the world where it is the first time where you're having someone joining there. The delivery times may vary, right? If it's a complex zone like Israel, like Ukraine, which, we have customers that are leveraging for that. There's also the uncertainty of, hey, there are delays that can happen. They're out of our control given the current situation. So those are the challenges that we normally see, right? But nothing I guess the other one too is the discrepancy or the difference between the cost of devices from one country to another. It's a big one, right? It's not the same thing to procure a device in the US and then all of a sudden you hire an engineer in Brazil and you just learn that device will cost you 3 times more than what it costs in the US, right? Because in Brazil and in every country for that matter, you have to pay, customs, import, duties, and even within each country, the variance between pricing, prices changes from vendors to vendors. So that is a complex, issue that sometimes, customers that have not hired abroad, face and they come up to us and hey, why this laptop that I get here in the US the cost is, well, this is the price in this other country. And you have to explain and, educate them, about that, right? So those are kind of the biggest, challenges that, we see with some customers.
So I think one of the main issues that we have here, would obviously be the logistics of sending the equipment, right? How does GroWrk work in a way that they get the equipment within the onboarding of the employee in time?
Yeah, for sure. So we have hundreds of warehouses globally, right? Partnerships through 3PLs. And so we orchestrate every single service request through them, through the GroWrk platform. So the GroWrk platform leverages AI to provide inventory visibility on real time for each spec, each device in every part of the world. So if you come to us and you tell us, hey, I have a new hire starting next week in X country, we immediately look at what's available through the multiple partners in each warehouse, and we will provide you with the lowest cost and the fastest delivery time for that device in that country. And so if you have predictability, especially customers that have been with us for some time, you start building a history. And so with that data, we can actually provide you with forecasts, so that we can actually go ahead and procure devices in advance and maintain them in stock so that you can deploy them at a moment's notice and deliver them in a matter of a day or two if you need to, right? Without predictability. And so we basically work very closely with our customers to understand those data patterns, demand patterns, so that we can ensure that the logistics in every country is set up to serve them as they need.
That's very interesting. In regards to, I guess the other part of the onboarding would be the offboarding, right? Which is not the great part of some companies that they need to do that. So what's the role of IT assistance in offboarding that GroWrk does for organizations?
Well, the biggest thing is recovering the equipment, right? Recovering it fast and effective. One of the biggest cost centers of organizations is precisely equipment that they are not able to recover. Sometimes it should write it off because, that employee or contractor was in a country where they don't have the capabilities to recover it or to enforce, the recovery of those devices. So They just, write it up, right? And so that adds up. If you have hundreds of employees or thousands of employees, that can be a very, very expensive,
Right.
so that's the first thing that we obviously help, fix for companies, right? We make sure that we can recover those devices effectively. We can automate this process so no one in your team is chasing, former employees to get those devices back. The second thing too is, how do you ensure that those devices are properly wiped? From a data standpoint, so they can be reprovisioned whenever you request them, and you can extend the life of those assets that are still in good condition instead of procuring new device. That will help you save money too, right? Every time that you get a new hire or contractor, you procure a new device, that will add up. But if you have devices in storage that are in good condition, you can redeploy those devices. And save up that cost. And the last thing is what do you do whenever one of your former employees or contractors are in a legal, situation, right? With your organization. We also manage, all the logistics to ensure that those, devices are secure under legal hold and, comply with any, court, or, forensics, requirements.
Got it. I'm glad you mentioned pretty much that some of the risks. What are some data considerations companies should consider when offboarding their employees? So what other considerations?
Yeah, I think the most important is security, right? How do you ensure that the data in those devices is properly managed? And a big part of that is, ensuring that you have your hands on the devices that hold that data. Because even if you can remotely wipe those devices, if those devices are in the hands of a technical person, they can still have access to that data, right? In that way. So that I would say that's the most important, part of it. But, in addition to that, it's also ensuring that you're being responsible with your capital expenses. And so if you can recover those devices and reprovision those devices, throughout the life cycle, it will help your organization, save up, hundreds, if not millions of dollars, in potential capital expenses by simply extending the lifespan of those assets.
Got it. Perfect. Are there any other risks that I forgot to mention that you could probably highlight for me?
Yeah, I'd say also environmental, end of life. How do you, manage end of life for those devices? All over the world, every single country has their own environmental regulations. And so, not properly disposing of the device in one of these countries can make you subject to fines, especially in the European Union. And so it's important that you're aware of those, details. Because, if you're a small team, you probably don't concern yourself about these things, right? But you're a scaling company that have hundreds of employees or thousands, and, you start building a reputation. You need to make sure that, you're taking care of that reputation. And you also got to make sure that you mitigate any potential risks, for any connection that you have to the country where you're doing business in, right? And so that's where we come into. We help manage that part of the equation.
Perfect. So we're very truly excited about Serviap Global's partnership with GroWrk. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose Serviap Global as a partner?
Likewise, the same thing. We're very excited about partnering with Serviap. I think, we share the same mindset. We provide and focus, provided global solutions to our customers. And really, I think it's a very natural fit, with what we do and what you provide to your customers. Ultimately, I think you enabling your customers to give them access to a solution like GroWrk helps them make a better hiring decision, right? When it comes down to their technical, team, and you can mitigate any of the typical issues that I just discussed here, right? Proactively. I think ultimately what you want to provide to your customers, it's an all-in-one solution so that, hey, okay, I hired a contractor or an employee through Serviap. Okay, now how do I handle the equipment? How do I make sure that, it's delivered on time and all those sort of things? So it's just a natural fit, right? So we're very excited about partnering with you guys and to help obviously, your customers be compliant, in hiring and working with contractors or employees, globally.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. And well, to finalize, to close off this episode, Carlos, we'd love for you to take on one of our section, which is a global hiring quiz. For this edition, we have some true and false questions. You can give us the answer to the following questions and your reason for the answer. Are you ready?
Sure, let's go.
Perfect. So once a device is assigned to an employee, there's no need to track it until the employee leaves the company. True or false?
False.
Okay.
False. You want to make sure that you know exactly what you have and where it is and how old that device is. So, inventory management, it's a key component of that.
That's correct. Onboarding isn't complete until an employee receives their device, log into the system, and are connected to IT support. True or false?
True. 100%. Yeah. If they don't go through that process, then they're not able to do their job, right?
That's correct. Managing devices remotely is impossible without on-site IT staff in every location. True or false?
False. You can have, on location support, in office, and that's fine. But what do you do when you have, all these employees and contractors distributed all over the world, right? I think the best thing to do there is just to work with a partner that can help provide that support whenever it's needed at an individual basis.
That's correct. And last question, 24/7 IT support is only necessary for teams working in different time zones. True or false?
False. I mean, we have, you do work whenever it's needed, right? If there's an urgent request, even if you're in a certain time zone and you need support in the middle of the night, you better, have access to someone that can help you troubleshoot whatever you're facing so you can continue, delivering on that deadline, right? But ultimately, you also want to provide the best possible experience to your employees and the confidence that someone will be there to help them if they face any issues. So, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, AI is, helping us deliver on that.
Well, thank you very much again for your time. That was the end of our global hiring quiz. And well, last but not least, I want to thank you, Carlos. We're so happy that you could join us today in our second episode and to have you as our second guest. And to end this, where can people follow you? What are your company LinkedIn profiles, or how do we locate you?
For sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure talking to you. And you can reach out to us, to our sales reps also, if you want to learn more about GroWrk at GroWrk.com. And so, you can also look us up on LinkedIn, but GroWrk is GroWrk.com.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that information, Carlos. I'm Rich Guerra. Thank you for listening to this episode of Borderless Talk, brought to you by Serviap Global. You can follow Serviap Global on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for another episode of Borderless Talk coming to you every month. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Borderless Talks. It's brought to you by Serviap Global.
Serviap Global.